Hello and welcome to our webinar, Strong Women and Girls. I'm Annie Bostrom, Senior Editor for Adult Books at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Emily Ludloff, Library Marketing Specialist at Sourcebooks, Jessica Turner, Associate Publisher and Editorial Director for Entangled Publishing, Dulce Botello, Marketing and Publicity Coordinator at Crooked Lane, and Carrie McManus, Senior Marketing Manager at Astra Books for Young Readers. First, we'll hear from Emily Ludloff. Emily is a library marketing specialist at Sourcebooks. She previously worked as a digital marketer with some of the top names in the music industry in Nashville, Tennessee, but ultimately could not resist the pull of her first love, books. Thanks for joining us, Emily.
Hello, thank you everyone. I'm so excited for the chance to chat with you all today about Sourcebooks books featuring strong women and girls. Next slide. My name is Emily Ludloff, and I'm the library marketing specialist at Sourcebooks. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and our brand new Instagram for up-to-date information, galleys, and free resources. Please feel free to email me with any questions you may have. Now, on to the books. Next slide. All right, we are going to begin today with our kids' titles. Next slide. The Girl Who Figured It Out is the uplifting true story of Minda Dentler, the first female wheelchair athlete to complete the Ironman World Championship triathlon. Minda was paralyzed as an infant in India after contracting polio. After she was adopted by an American family and moved to Washington, she underwent surgeries to enable her to walk with leg braces and crutches. As she grew, she faced many challenges, but remained undeterred by her disability. Her decision to begin training and competing in triathlons was no different. Despite the obstacles and failures she experienced along the way, Minda's persistence and determination in the face of setbacks helped her to make sports history and inspire people around the world to rethink what's possible. Next slide. The Amazing Power of Girls is a lyrical, STEM-focused girl power picture book that uses the author's background as an engineer to describe the various forces at work in our world by personifying each one as a girl. Each stanza showcases a different girl and scientific force to create a diverse cast of individuals, simplifying complex forces such as gravity and buoyancy into memorable characters. Next slide, please. Black Girl is an inspiring new picture book from the authors of Black Boy. It is self-esteem for Black girls, drawing on the history of the role models that came before them, from Kamala Harris to Wilma Rudolph to Rosa Parks. This is an uplifting and beautiful introduction to the strong women who have touched our history. Next slide, please. All right, discover the inspiring true story of Katie Sandwina in Katie, Big and Strong. Even from a young age, Katie was big and strong. She could lift heavy weights, bend steel bars, and lift several men at once. In 1912, at the height of her American fame, she publicly rallied with her fellow circus performers for women's suffrage. Hailed as a goddess-like figure by the press and circus audiences, Katie showed the world that being big and strong was beautiful. Next slide, please. Our Callisto imprint has some wonderful new story of biographies coming this year, including Audrey Hepburn, Serena Williams, Betty White, and my most favorite human, Taylor Swift. These biographies are perfect for kids ages 6 to 9 and include full color illustrations, timelines, quizzes, and so much more. These are perfect for fans of the Who, What, Where series. Next slide, please. We are going to transition now to Sourcebooks YA titles from our Fire and Bloom imprints. Next slide. The Poisons We Drink is a potent YA debut about a world where love potions are weaponized against hate and prejudice, and bonds are unbreakable. When an enemy's iron bullet kills her mother, Venus's life implodes. Then the powerful Grand Witcher, the ruthless head of her coven, offers Venus the chance to punish her mother's killer. But she has to pay a steep price for revenge. The cost? Brew poisonous potions to enslave DC's most influential politicians. As Venus crawls deeper into the corrupt underbelly of her city, the line between magic and power blurs, and it's hard to tell who to trust, herself included. Next slide, please. This Ravenous Fate is the first book in a decadent sapphic fantasy duology set in Jazz Age Harlem from debut YA author Haley Dennings. To set the scene of this Ravenous Fate, we'll have to go back to the 1920s, where Reapers, once human vampires, are on the rise in New York. Opposing these bloodthirsty Reapers are the Saint family and their thriving Reaper hunting enterprise. 18-year-old Elise Saint is the reluctant heir to the Saint enterprise. Elise feels unsteady under the weight of her family obligations and the knowledge that the Reapers in Harlem have marked her for murder. Layla Quinn is a young Reaper haunted by her past. The night she was turned, she lost her parents, her humanity, and was betrayed by her best friend, Elise Saint. When evidence of brutal and mysterious murders begin to shake Harlem, both Elise and Layla are forced to work together to discover the culprit. As they explore the city's underworld and confront their intense feelings for one another, they uncover sinister truths about a growing threat to Reapers and humans alike. Next slide, please. And I'm so excited to talk to you about one of my favorite YA series ever, the Covenant series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It begins in Half-Blood, where 17-year-old Half-Blood Alex is given two options in life. One, become a servant for the pure-blooded descendants of the gods, or she can train to become a guardian. So, the second option seems like the obvious choice. But everything gets complicated when pureblood Aiden volunteers to be her personal trainer. Because not only is Aiden gorgeous, but he also understands Alex in a way she's never experienced before. Book boyfriend alert. Unfortunately, relationships between pures and half-bloods are strictly forbidden. But falling for Aiden isn't her biggest problem. As demons close in, she must fight to stay alive, even if it's her fault those around her are dropping dead. Next slide, please. All right, we are going to transition into some adult titles, beginning with our Sourcebooks landmark imprint for fiction. Next slide, please. So if you love strong women in historical fiction stories that are based on real people, these are the books for you. First, set in the Prohibition era, The Last 12 Miles follows two women masterminds trying to outwit each other in a compelling game of cat and mouse. The 13th Husband by Greer McAllister follows real-life 18th century railroad heiress Amy Crocker, who blazes an unbelievable trail of public notoriety and private pain. along with a hearty collection of husbands, as the title would suggest, and multiple run-ins with a mysterious psychic. And you may know of the Wright brothers, but have you heard of Catherine, the younger Wright sister? While the brothers were brilliant inventors and builders, Catherine was the glue that held their family and their business together. As important as she was to the Wright family, she has often been forgotten in the history books, and no longer. Next slide, please. We also have two new Southern fiction titles that are sure to grab your attention with strong women leads. First, Long After We Are Gone by librarian Tara Shelton Harris. This follows four siblings, each fighting their own personal battles as they return home in the wake of their father's death in order to save their family home and ancestral land from being sold out from under them. And then The Townsend Family Recipe for Disaster by Shauna Robinson follows Mae Townsend, who has always dreamed of her family in the South. So when news arrives that her grandmother has died, she decides it's time. It's time to finally explore her Black roots in the South. What she finds is a family in turmoil, a long-standing rift still intact, a lost mac and cheese recipe causing grief, and a Townsend family barbecue on the brink of disaster. Not willing to let her dreams of family slip away, May steps up to save the day. Mac and cheese recipe be damned, to throw a barbecue everyone will remember. Next slide, please. The most famous girl in the world is perfect for fans of Inventing Anna and follows Rose, who wrote the investigative article that exposed socialite Poppy Hastings as a scam artist and led to her highly publicized trial and jailing. Poppy served her time for defrauding some of the richest, most powerful names in the world. But Rose knows this is only the tip of the iceberg for her crimes. She just can't prove it yet. And it's especially not helpful when her sources keep dying under mysterious circumstances. As Poppy Star rises as a social media influencer and a beloved scammer icon, Rose quickly descends into a downward spiral of guilt and obsession. Rose's article created Poppy's fame, and Rose is the only one who can expose Poppy for the monster that she is. But can she do it before anyone else gets caught in the crosshairs? Ooh. Next slide, please. And for a murderously good time, we suggest trying one of our mysteries and thrillers from our Poison Pen Press imprint. Next slide. Which includes this creepy sapphic horror, My Darling Dreadful Thing, in which Ruse Beckman has a spirit companion only she can see, and it's really the only good thing in her life. That is, until wealthy young widow Agnes Coop asks Rue to come live with her at a crumbling estate. The manor is unsettling, but the attraction between Ruse and Agnes is palpable. So, how does someone end up dead? And why is Ruse caught red-handed? She claims a spirit is the culprit. She obviously knows that they are real, but no one else does. So she'll have to prove her innocence and her sanity or lose everything. Next slide, please. By day, Cordelia Black is a successful pharma rep with her pristine reputation and designer wardrobe. By night, she's culling South Louisiana of unscrupulous men, monsters who always seem to evade justice. But when the evening news starts throwing around words like serial killer, suddenly pressure heightens for Cordelia. And it's only exacerbated when her bestie Diana starts dating a man who Cordelia isn't sure is a good person, and who might just unravel everything Cordelia has worked for. Soon enough, Cordelia's world starts to spiral, and she has to come face to face with the choices she's made, the good, the bad, and the murderous. Both her family and her freedom depend on it. Next slide, please. All right, so get ready to fall in love with our romance imprint, Sourcebooks Casablanca. Next slide. In the Library of Borrowed Hearts, librarian Chloe Sampson is just about at the end of her rope when she stumbles across a rare edition of a book from the 1960s. She takes it home with her and is shocked when her cranky hermit of a neighbor offers to buy it for an exorbitant price. Intrigued, Chloe takes a closer look, only to find notes scribbled in the margins between two young lovers, one of whom is definitely the curmudgeon next door. When she begins following the clues left behind, she discovers book after book filled with romantic marginalia and comes to realize that some of the best stories can begin in the unlikeliest of places. Next slide. And now onto our Bloom Books imprint for some sizzle and spice. Next slide. Number one best-selling author Lucy Score is one of my personal favorite Bloom authors, and her Riley Thorne series will have you laughing, solving murders, and falling in love. This series is perfection for fans of Stephanie Plum and Janet Ivanovich, in which a budding sidekick with visions of gory futures unwittingly teams up with a private investigator to solve murders and fall in love. Next slide, please. Elle Kennedy is a perfect author for those who love hockey romances and new adult. First, The Graham Effect is the first in a spin-off series of her popular off-campus series, following a female hockey player and how she falls in love with the enemy hockey player. The Dixon Rule follows cheerleader Diana as she's thrown into a fake relationship with hockey player and next door neighbor Shane. And then Girl Abroad is My Oxford Year meets We Met in December, where the daughter of a retired rock star finds herself studying abroad in London and entangled in scandal and romance. Next slide, please. And of course, we have so many other strong women characters in our Bloom imprint, and I can't squeal with you all about them today, but you can get a little preview here. Next slide, please. And that is it for me. That is all the books I have for you, but please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and don't forget to vote for Library Reads. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emily. We will now hear from Jessica Turner. Jessica is the Associate Publisher and Editorial Director for Entangled's adult imprints, Armara and Sideways. After 10 plus years in sales and marketing outside of publishing, she joined the company in 2012 as publicist, where she cut her teeth on then new authors like Tessa Bailey, Katie Robert, Elle Kennedy, Gina L. Maxwell, and more. She publishes an average of 6 titles a month between Entangled's print and digital first formats, and believes that books are transformative. When not reading her next favorite novel, she's chasing after 2 little boys in the hill country outside Austin, Texas. Thanks for being here today, Jessica.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I am Jessica. I am here from Entangled. I'm the associate publisher, as you introduced, and it's just great to be here with you all. We have a lot of books to get through. I'm going to try to go slow and remember to take a breath, but if I go through anything too fast, please don't hesitate to reach out, ask any questions on any titles. Next slide, please. Before I get started, though, no one tells our stories better than our authors, so I'd like to start with a special message.
Hi, my name is Lauren Marie Fleming, and I love strong women and girls. I work with them, I mentor them, I read about them, and I am them, which is why strong women and girls are at the core of my book, Because Fat Girl, coming October 22nd on Amara, an imprint of Entangled Publishing. As a queer, non-binary femme who grew up in a small conservative farming town, I understand the importance of libraries. Before I had the strength to be proudly who I am, I found solace in the stories I found in the books there, the stories that librarians like you handed to kids like me. Yes, I dream of hitting #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list. Do not get me wrong. But more than that, I dream of having queer, fat, non-binary, marginalized women and girls walk into bookstores and into libraries and see themselves on the shelves and know that because they read Because Fat Girl, they feel like they now deserve their Hollywood ending. I studied film in undergrad, and I had a professor who told me, the only woman in a class of 20 people, that I would be better suited as a novelist, not a film director. And while I love my life as a novelist and my education that I do now at schoolforwriters.com to help other people tell their stories, I often wonder what would have happened if I'd had the strength to go to Hollywood anyways. Because Fat Girl answers that question. What would it be like if you didn't let Hollywood and society decide what you get to do with your life and you pursued your dreams anyways as a strong woman? As you'll read in the book, the answer is pretty complex. But the core of it is you've got to bring your friends along. You've got to get other strong women and girls and non binary folks and queers and allies to come and support you. This diverse cast of women and queers and men and allies, they come together, they pool their money and their resources and their strength, and they bet on each other. As someone who has faced rejection in publishing for almost a decade, because I was told, sometimes quite literally, that my books were too gay, I appreciate that now I have a strong group of women and Entangled coming together with me, pulling our strength and resources and betting on this book, betting on Because Fat Girl. I cannot wait for you librarians and people of all genders to come and join that crew and join a part of the Because Fat Girl team. And now, back to a strong woman, Jessica from Entangled.
Oh, thank you. Next slide. Well, speaking of inspiring, I don't know about you guys, but I'm quite inspired after her message, which leads me into her debut fiction, Because Fat Girl. This is truly moving and funny and heartfelt. It's such a beautiful story. It's both inspirational and empowering for women and people of all identities. It's for everyone who's felt too big, too weird, too queer, just too much, because Fat Girl will really resonate with so many of us. The only man Diana had ever wanted was golden and goes by the name of Oscar. But now this offer game filmmaker has a chance to make her dreams come true, and to get her Hollywood ending, she's going to have to go completely off script. We describe this as Chasing Amy meets Curtis Sittenfeld's romantic comedy with LGBTQ plus representation. It has all the popular tropes TikTok are smitten for right now, and it's just really going to appeal to such a wide range of audiences. We have a lot of strong books featuring strong women and girls at the heart of their stories, so let's get on with it. Next slide, please. Gosh, I am such a huge fan of Livy Hart. Her stories are inviting. Her dialogue is impeccable. You just feel clever reading her pages. In this story, we meet Nora, who is bubbly and bright and used to her independence. But Nora accidentally fake dates her way into a wedding disaster, and she has to overcome her hangups in order to move forward. Gosh, we've been so pleased with the response to Livy's print and her digital titles. Readers, once they find her, just dive into her very vast back catalog. And this just meets the demand for the HEA rom-coms that continue to be so popular with readers, with this fun, highly consumable end of summer read. Next slide. Gosh, this one has 3 generations of strong women and girls and appeals to such a wide range of demographics. If you're a Sleepless in Seattle fan like me, you'll love this fresh take. And the movie, like so many others of its time, is finding a whole new generation of fans, which we are excited to tap into for this release. So when a single mom's best friend creates a series of Date My Best Friend videos that go completely viral, she'll have to turn to her very attractive neighbor to convince America she's actually off the market. Marina Adair is already a New York Times bestselling author and has created something really special that's a mix of women's fiction and romance, that's equal parts humor and heart. And Marina has also found recent success on Book Talk, so we just know that her fans, along with new ones, are just going to flock to this very perfect beach read. Next slide. Moving on to something a little different, but no less impressive, with a powerful female lead. New York Times bestselling author Geneva Lee hit it really big with her Filthy Rich Vampires series over the last couple of years, and we are thrilled to bring this new series, Filthy Rich Fae, to both her readers and romantasy readers at large. In this series, we head to the underworld of New Orleans, where the Fae live in our world and their kings rule like mafia dons. Our female protagonist finds herself in an unbreakable bond and bargain with one of the Fae's most dangerous princes. But even with her life on the line, she doesn't lose her edge or determination. Fans of Sarah J. Maas and Scarlett St. Clair will feel right at home here, and we're just expecting another unbeatable series. Next slide, please. All right, speaking of romantasy, we're going to move on to a few titles from our Red Tower line, which you may know from the smash hit Fourth Wing. Starting off with Heaven Breaker. Gosh, the lead character in this story is one tough woman. We first meet Sonali when she's just committed a terrible act of vengeance in an unjust system. Her story takes off like a rocket ship from there. Sonali needs both physical and emotional strength to continue her journey. Fury personified, Heaven Breaker will appeal to readers looking for a very empowered, no-holds-barred thrill ride. This is a true cross-genre blend of sci-fi, fantasy, action, romance, and just captures a very wide audience with its cross appeal. From the very casual Star Wars fans and viewers to the mecha anime aficionado. Author Sarah Wolf is already a New York Times bestseller and crafts a real sense of atmosphere. This is just a transporting read we think you'll love. Next slide. Los Angeles Times Book Prize finalist and critically acclaimed author Rachel Housel Hall is a total rock star. Known for her thriller and mystery novels, she brings some amazing pacing and characters to this new genre. Our networks have been so stoked to see what she's going to do with Romantasy, and the buzz is real. We're excited to lift up her voice along with her inclusive cast. We describe her as N.K. Jemisin meets Baldur's Gate. The author herself is a gamer and really brought that vibe to the story, which is exciting. Waking up unsure of who she is in a world that is dying, our fierce heroine has to figure out who she can trust, including herself. Like any good lead, the female protagonist here is complex and layered. And in this case, she truly carries the world on her shoulders. Gosh, talk about strength. The stakes are high, like any good fantasy, but the themes they're relatable, like social justice and inclusion. And our readers have already made this a New York Times bestsellers list just from the pre-orders alone. All right, next slide. All right. The much anticipated sequel to the instant #1 New York Times bestselling smash hit, Assistant to the Villain. It's coming to us all this August. This is part workplace comedy, part cozy fantasy romance featuring the ultimate anti-hero. Just to give you a taste of this series' quirky sense of romance, here's the original catalyst for the story's starting point. When Evie reads, assistant wanted, notorious high-ranking villain seeks loyal, level-headed assistant for unspecified office duties, supporting staff for random mayhem and terror, and other dark things in general. Discretion a must, excellent benefits. As you can see from this voice and plot, it's just as spunky as the evil assistant Evie Sage, and this time she's really coming into her own and realizing just how capable she is. Book 1 was a Barnes & Noble speculative fiction pick last August, received tons of awards, including a Booklist starred review, and continues to take TikTok by storm. I have already seen the cover art for this one, and gosh, that alone is going to drive readers right to the shelves. All right, next one. I want to mention a couple of our upcoming favorites from Entangled Teen. If you remember the #1 best-selling Crave series, Tracy Wolf is at it again. This expands the Crave universe with Calder Academy. Meet Clementine, who's stuck at her family's boarding school for rogue paranormals. A hurricane hits the remote island and true nightmares are unleashed. Clementine has to prove her worth and confront dark secrets. It's just the worst 72 hours of her life. She has to survive, keep her friends safe, and dig deep to find her true power. There are real world themes at play here, including social justice and prejudice, but it's got a bit of humor, some jump scares in there, and of course, a lot of heart because it's Tracy. It brings in elements of gothic horror, dark academia, and paranormal, and her series fans, along with new readers, are just already flocking to this one. It's just true teen catnip. All right, next one. Oh, this is a really, really special story. It's perfect for the upper YA audience. It's hilarious, it's poignant, it's a little dark. We describe this as Palm Springs meets Booksmart. Emma Davidson thought meeting an immortal octopus was the weirdest part of her Friday until the day starts playing on a seamlessly endless time loop. It's using an offbeat and out there concept to talk about very real life themes. It's a very sex positive love story. It's very empowering for this new generation of teens. Emma is a very relatable girl, though, and she's finding her strength in unexpected places and persevering in the most absurd and challenging of circumstances. Jessica herself is an ALA award-winning author, and the writing is just so high quality. It's capable of pulling in even the most reluctant of readers. All right, next slide, please. So part of what makes Entangled really special is bridging the gap between indie and traditional publishing. So we are just excited to announce that we are helping over a dozen best-selling, hardworking small publishers bring their stories to a wider audience of readers. These are just a few examples of what's up ahead for us, but I wanted to share that we are excited to bring these to bookshelves everywhere this year. And that should be it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Next, we will hear from Dulce Botello. Marketing and Publicity Coordinator Dulce Botello graduated with a BA in Arts, Media, and Entertainment from the University of Arizona and with an MS in Publishing from NYU. She has previously worked at Core Press, a nonprofit feminist publisher, and for Macmillan Publishers in the Special Sales Department. Dulce loves to read everything and anything that lands on her lap, but has a special affinity for dystopian stories, thrillers, and the occasional fantasy. The floor is yours, Dulce.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. As was mentioned, I'm the marketing coordinator for Crooked Lane Books and Alcove Press. We launched Alcove in 2020 to publish book club fiction ranging from historical to rom-coms and everything in between. I'm so excited to tell you about some of our forthcoming titles today, all featuring women and girls who are strong, fierce, main protagonists to root for. So let's get into it. Next slide, please. For readers of feminist fiction like All the Single Ladies and Brotopia, Over the Influence by Cara Alaimo is a powerful journalistic work of narrative nonfiction that examines why social media is a terribly toxic place for women and girls and what actions they can take to combat it. The author is a communications expert who worked in the Obama administration and writes regularly for CNN Opinion on how social media affects women. Drawing from this expertise, Cara has provided a powerful book that takes readers on a journey through the life of a woman online, from middle school to promotions at work to new motherhood. In all these phases, she might be bullied, catfished, doxxed, or unfairly judged. But Over the Influence doesn't just dive into the landscape of social media, but it provides real solutions for how individuals can change their relationship with social media and make it more empowering for themselves and for women and other women. Over the Influence published earlier this month, and it was Alcove Press's inaugural nonfiction title. Next slide, please. Next up, we have The Heir of Venus by Laura Shepperson. This is a feminist retelling from the author of Phaedra. This dives into the Greek myth of Aeneas, a warrior of the Trojan War and the founder of Rome, and the women who surround him. Lavinia, daughter of King Latinus, is promised to her childhood love and a neighboring king, Turnus. But when her father reneges and sets up her engagement to Aeneas, seeking an advantage with the alleged son of Venus, Turnus declares war. But not all is as it seems to be. Lavinia finds that her new betrothed is secretive about his past. Soon she discovers he left two women to die horrible deaths in his wake as he fulfilled his destiny to found Rome. Now it's up to her to save her kingdom and herself. With Shepperson's usual striking pose and well-researched background, readers can expect a thrilling tale of ancient Greece. This is an August publication. Next slide, please. The Sound of a Thousand Stars by Rachel Robbins is a sweeping historical novel based on true events. In 1944, Alice Kahn is a young Jewish physicist, one of the only female doctoral students at her university, studying with the famed Dr. Oppenheimer. Her well-to-do family wants her to marry a man of her class and settle down. Instead, Alice answers her country's call to come to an unnamed city in the desert to work on a government project shrouded in secrecy. At Los Alamos, Alice meets Caleb Fisher, a poor Orthodox Jew who has been assigned to the explosives division. No one seems to know exactly what they're working on. What they do know is that it is a race and that they must beat the Nazis, whatever the cost. Amidst an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty, Alice and Caleb find themselves drawn to one another. Sure to captivate readers of Kate Quinn and Bonnie Garmis, The Sound of a Thousand Stars is a propulsive novel about love in desperate times, the consequences of our decisions, and the roles we play in history. The author wrote The Sound of a Thousand Stars with a hyper awareness of the prohibitive role gender played for the women scientists who worked on the Manhattan Project, who were forgotten and overlooked by history. The Sound of a Thousand Stars will publish in September. Next slide, please. Perfect for fans of practical magic, What We Sacrifice for Magic by Andrea Jo DeWard is an enchanting come-of-age debut that follows 3 generations of witches. It's 1968, and the Watry Rider family is feared and respected in equal measure. The local farmers seek out their water charms, and the teenagers their love spells. Eldest daughter Elizabeth's path as the next guardian of the family magic has been laid out for her since before she can remember, whether she wants this life or not. But she soon discovers that magic isn't the only thing inherited in her family. That magic also comes with a great price and a big family secret. Half of her heart has already been given to magic, so she can only ever experience a half love. The more she learns about the decision that was made without her consent, the more questions she has, and the less she trusts the grandmother she thought she knew. But who is Elizabeth without her family? She must ultimately decide what she's willing to sacrifice for her family, their secrets, and their magic, or risk it all to pave her own way. This upmarket coming-of-age story with magical elements is a perfect book for book clubs, readers who flock to everything witchy, and those who love a good family saga. What We Sacrifice for Magic is also out next September. Next slide, please. Next up, we have I've Got My Mindset on Brew by Stephanie Janey and Enemies to Lovers Workplace Romance. For a long time, Kat felt purposeless until she got her job as a server at Resistance Brew Pub and discovered her love for brewing beer. She's well on her way to becoming a brewmaster, but then the pub's owners sell the business to an investment company, and the new manager, Ryan, who also happens to be the boss's son, refuses to keep her on as anything more than a server and bartender, so her dreams come to a screeching halt. Ryan, on the other hand, is completely out of his element in this new job, and all he wants is to make his father proud, which means following the advice of some people who might not have the brewery's best interest at heart. But if they want the place to succeed, Kat and Ryan will have to team up despite their differences. This is a sweet romance with a strong feminist voice and a cast of fun characters, not to mention tons of fun for beer lovers. Readers who identify with strong female protagonists fighting to make their way in a male-dominated industry will love protagonist Kat Malone in I've Got My Mindset on Brew, out in early April. Next slide, please. An ambitious reporter stuck doing diversity checks for her white colleagues gets her big break in The Only Black Girl in the Room by Alex Travis. Genevieve Francis, a 25-year-old Black reporter, has been relegated to doing copy edits and sensitivity reads on the articles her white colleagues write. So when Jen finally gets the opportunity to write a profile for a prominent CEO, she leaps at the chance. This will be her biggest assignment to date. The only problem, the CEO is her ex, Jude, whose marriage proposal she publicly rejected 4 years prior. The potential for scandal if anyone digs into their past is high, but Jen decides to risk it. If she proves herself with this profile, it could jumpstart her dream of writing articles about things that matter to her. But between the racist backlash from her colleagues and her conflicting feelings towards her ex, Jen soon realizes she's way She's in way over her head, and it may be more than just her career on the line. This debut novel is perfect for fans of Janie Allen, Jasmine Guillory, and Zakiya Delilah Harris. It dives into timely discussion topics like pressures placed upon Black women in the majority white workplace. And The Only Black Girl in the Room comes out in May. Next slide, please. It's a privilege just to be here by debut author Emma Sasaki. It's perfect for fans of such a fun age and token. Told with both razor-sharp wit and the keen eye of a prep school insider, this novel tackles social inequality and racism in elite academic settings. Aki Higashi Brown is proud to teach at Wesley School, Washington, D.C.'s most prestigious prep school, and sent her daughter Meg there as a benefit to her employment. Not only is Wesley the premier academy destination for the children of the capital elite, but Wesley is also all about diversity, achievement, and collegiality, as all of their glossy brochures printed on sustainably sourced paper will tell you. But when someone graffitis "Make Wesley White Again" on campus, it exposes dangerous fault lines in the school community. Ones Aki may have spent a lifetime learning to ignore, but doubts her headstrong daughter Meg and her similarly impassioned classmates will let slide. This one comes out in June. Next slide, please. From an exciting new voice in literary fiction, We Carry the Sea in Our Hands by Jamie Kim is a complex and layered ode to found family, perfect for fans of The Last Story of Minna Lee and Goodbye Vitamin. Abby Rodier was a Dropbox baby, a Korean orphan whose mother could not take care of her and left her as an infant. Abby's tumultuous experience in the American foster care system has led her to live a solitary and guarded life, closed off to almost everyone except her best friend, Isul, whose parents took Abby into their home as a child. Abby's work studying the origins of life in sea slugs and bacteria leads her to wonder about her birth parents and question her place in the world. It's not long before Abby stumbles upon a biological discovery that will change the course of her life. After a tragic accident, Abby's life is thrown into a tailspin. With the rug pulled from under her feet, she spirals into a disorientation of grief, apparitions, and compulsions. With the help of those around her, Abby must embark on a journey to understand her true roots and make peace with her present. Joyce Carol Oates has already called this novel a brilliant accomplishment. We Carry the Sea in Our Hands comes out in July. Next slide, please. Moving, insightful, and caustically funny all at once, Lynn Lee is Doing Just Fine by Teo Wotong depicts a quarter-life crisis in deeply relatable prose. When 27-year-old Lynn Lee's recently divorced mother begins dating a coworker, Lynn is determined to make sure he is worthy of her mother. After all, she's seen the kind of men her mother ends up with, and she's certain that her mother can't do this on her own. But what begins as genuine worry quickly turns obsessive. Following her mother and spying on her dates becomes part of Lynn's routine, especially after a university shooting at Lynn's work that leaves her feeling adrift. At least her mom's dating life gives her something to focus on. Lynn doesn't exactly have a life of her own, dating or otherwise, and figures the best course of action is action, not how she can handle the shooting, curled up in a ball and waiting it out. Lynn is slowly forced to reconcile the image of her mother from her childhood with the woman she's getting to know as an adult. Growing up Vietnamese in the middle of Texas with a broken household taught Lynn a certain guarded way of living, one she never quite left behind. Told in deadpan humor and brutal honesty, this one comes out in July. Next slide, please. Paris is always a good idea. The Paris Cooking School by Sophie Beaumont is a deeply moving, cooking-centric Paris book club novel where three women must come together and fight for the happy ending they dream of. Kate is bruised from a heartbreaking betrayal, and her visual artist friend Gabby is struggling to overcome a crippling creative block. Learning how to make culinary magic at the celebrated Paris Cooking School may just be the perfect antidote, so they hop on the next flight to Paris. But for Sylvie, the school's owner, things are not looking so promising. She is under siege from an online smear campaign that threatens to destroy everything she's worked for, while also juggling a commitment-shy lover. Throughout the course of this charming novel, the women's lives will intersect in ways they never saw coming, and the three of them will change forever. This novel about hope and second chances is perfect for fans of Veronica Henry, and it comes out in August. And next slide, please. That wraps it up for Alcove today. Thank you so much. Please follow us online. And if you want a digital copy or ARC, please email me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dulce. Finally, we'll hear from Carrie McManus. Carrie is a senior marketing manager at Astra Books for young readers. Take it away, Carrie.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Next slide, please. Introducing the fabulous Fanny Farmer. Next slide. Before there was Ina Garten, there was Fanny Farmer. In this nonfiction picture book, America's most famous cooking teacher and the author of the Fanny Farmer cookbook discovers that precise measurements are the recipe for cooking success. Next. This book includes 2 of her classic recipes, and Kirkus calls it delectable. Next slide. If you're a fan of the All of a Kind books by Sydney Taylor or The Award, then you'll want to read One of a Kind. Next. This nonfiction picture book is the true story of how Sarah Brenner, a poor girl from New York City's Lower East Side, became Sydney Taylor, successful children's book author. Next slide. SLJ calls this book a powerful story of a pioneer author sharing a cultural identity, recommended for biography shelves. Next slide. And next up, we have Pedal, Balance, Steer. Next. Annie Londonderry proves women can do anything they set their minds to, even cycle around the world in this nonfiction picture book. Next. This is an inspirational story and the first book on the subject. Kirkus says a fascinating, larger-than-life personality is deservedly brought to readers' attention in this fine offering. Next slide. Introducing Cactus Queen. Next. How did the Joshua Tree National Park in California come to be? Meet Minerva Hamilton Hoyt, an artist, activist, and environmentalist whose determination saved the desert and helped to create the park in this STEAM picture book. Next. In a star review, SLJ calls this book a fascinating look into the life of a little-known environmental hero, a lively picture book biography with tie-ins to Earth Day and Women's History Month. Highly recommended. Next. And just in time for spring, here is Bird Girl. Next slide. This is a STEAM picture book about the life of Jean Stratton Porter, a pioneering wildlife photographer and popular author from the late 19th and early 20th century. Next slide. Booklist says Bird Girl is a splendid introduction to a lesser-known life that is sure to inspire. Next slide. And now I have 2 special guests with me to talk about Skybound, starring Mary Myers as Carlotta, daredevil aeronaut and scientist, a new nonfiction picture book from Calkins Creek that's publishing on April 16th, and it's already received 2-star reviews. I am pleased to introduce Carolyn P. Yoder, editorial director of Calkins Creek, the American history imprint of Astra Books for young readers that is celebrating its 20th anniversary in 2024. And by the way, all the other books that I just talked about are also Calkins Creek books. And Sue Gantz-Schmidt, the author of Skybound. Carolyn and Sue, take it away.
Thank you very much, Carrie. It's my honor to be talking with strong woman author Sue Gantz-Schmidt today about strong woman Mary Myers. Next. Skybound is the story of Mary Myers, aka Carlotta, who dreamed of flying at a very young age and who became a daredevil aeronaut or balloonist, who not only wowed the crowds, but conducted very important scientific experiments. So as I said, it's my honor to be talking with the author, and I'm going to ask a few questions. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us in the chat. So Sue, This is your first nonfiction picture book. Why a book on Mary Myers, aka Carlotta? What drew you to her and what set her apart?
Thank you, Carolyn. Good question. So I attended the Vermont College of Fine Arts in 2017, learning to deepen my craft on picture book writing. I'd only written fictional picture books. And when I started exploring my body of work, I realized there was definitely a thread of flight that ran through almost every single one of them. So when I had the opportunity to be part of Vermont College's picture book intensive, which meant for 6 months, we went deep into picture books, and we had to write about 4 picture books a month. So when I was given the assignment, yeah, kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
So when I was given the assignment to write a picture book biography, I was excited and terrified. Terrified because I had never thought of myself as someone who could write a picture book biography. So I live in the dreamy fictional world. But I took on the challenge, and I started looking for someone who would spark me, who would really excite me to live with her story for, the time that I wrote it, which has now it's been 6 years since I started writing this and researching her. And then the time you publish it, you really have to love your subject. And so I was doing a lot of research. I went to Flight Museum in DC, Air and Flight Museum. I went to other museums looking for someone, and I finally ran across her just on a random Wikipedia page. And they spoke about how she was the first woman in America to pilot a balloon. And I thought, how have I never heard about this woman? This is crazy. Like, I follow a lot about flight, but what I've since found out was that was not exactly correct. There are other forgotten women who came before her. But nonetheless, what I discovered was a woman who she was sort of Mary Poppins meets Amelia Earhart in Victorian era America. When women were really confined to their stations, she was finding her way up and out of there in a balloon, and she had more flights than any man and all the women combined of her era.
That's great. You touched a little bit about the research, and Calkins Creek is all about original research and original writing. So I know you spent a long time on the research. I know Jacopo Bruno, the incredible illustrator, did as well, but I think people would really like to know how deep your research really went.
Right. So, as I said, I started on Wikipedia, and there was a lot of information there, but there was also a great list of source material for the quotes and the information that people had put out there. So I got a hold of just about every book that I could find that they sourced there, as well as newspaper articles. I actually have one of my early research books I collected. Is this nice? I don't know, it's like 3 or 4
I love
inch
that.
notebook full of material, and I have researched enough to fill probably 9 more of these on her. So I found a lot of the most exciting research I found was by going into newspapers.com and looking in the area she lived and flew in and finding every newspaper article I could about her. And what that gave me was a really great sense of her voice. It gave me quotes. It gave me a sense of her bravery and how adventurous she truly was, and also some of the science that she was involved in. And so I contacted museums in her area. I got materials that I could not find in any other book. I found some photographs, and I also reached out to a family group. The Hawley family meets every year, and they've kept track of the ancestry of the Hawley name, her family name, not her married name. But and I reached out to see if they had some information for me, but I found I had gathered more, and they actually want information from me. So I'm so excited to send them this book. But probably one of the most.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't think people realize how much work and research go into a children's book. So it's really fabulous to know your process.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was, man, I've been so excited to immerse myself in her world. It is such a fun place to live in. But one of the most fun parts of the research was going to the International Balloon Fiesta, the Albuquerque International Balloon Festival, to take my first flight. And I brought my daughter with me, and we got in the balloon, and the crowd can come right up to the balloon. So all of a sudden, they were filling the balloon. There weren't very many people around us. Then all of a sudden, it was packed with a crowd, and we were starting to lift off. And I had to tap into that sensation of what it must have been like for Mary to lift off on that first flight with the awe of everyone around her. And it was incredible.
Yeah, I can't imagine it. And with wearing all of those clothes and with all those pigeons and all that good stuff. Talk a little bit about your first reaction to Jacopo Bruno. I mean, I've always been drawn to his art. It's incredible, and it's really why he's just a great match for your words.
Wow. Well, first of all, he was on my wish list, and I never imagined that I would get him to illustrate my words. So I'm so honored. I think he is one of the most talented kid lit artists in the industry. So for those of you here today, please check out his work. It is gorgeous. So when you're an author and you've lived with your words and you have this, at least I do, I have this movie that plays in my head as I'm writing the story. I see it so vividly. But you don't know how the illustrator's going to see it at all. And he and I, as many of you know, when an author and illustrator are working on a book together, it's not really together. They receive the words and then they do their own work. And in this case, Copa did an extraordinary amount of research as well. And so seeing it is like getting the first sketches and illustrations. It's sort of like your birthday and all the holidays in one. And I open each page like I'm unwrapping a gift. So I love the palette that he chose and how Mary pops in an otherwise somewhat muted palette, which I feel is kind of like what it probably was like in her life. I feel like she popped wherever she went. And so it was incredible to see his art. And it's also like, as you can see, it's both realistic, so it can bring kids close to that era, but it's also whimsical and fun. And in most of them, you will notice when you look closer, if you go to another image, maybe back to the library image we were just on, he has her, not sure if you could quite see it here, but usually one of her feet are either her foot is hovering just off the ground. And in this case, you could see her in the chair with her toe pointed. And I love how he prepared us for that before she actually had her first liftoff.
Yeah. Yeah, like she's in the clouds in the first spread, and here she's sort of walking on air, which is really great. He's a joy and a real talent. I think the last question, one of the things that I look for when I'm looking at a manuscript is how relevant the subject is. And, you know, what do you hope readers will come away with when they read Mary's story? She really is relevant to this time. She has perseverance, she's brave, she's bold, et cetera, et cetera. But what do you hope kids will take away from reading your book? And
thank you. I think there's so much to take away from her and her life. She was a balloon builder, a pilot, an author, an inventor. She was dedicated. She was so dedicated to her audience, which people can see in the back matter as well. But I think having a protagonist who is not defined by society's norms, especially today, is so important. It's so important for girls and all kids. And I think there's an underlying message of just finding your way up, which can be either literally for kids who have an interest in flight, or metaphorically, if you feel confined in your own life, which I definitely did as a kid. And like Mary, I used to have dreams of floating up, and I'd wake up and feel so heavy and earthbound. And for me, one of the ways that I was able to rise up was to SOAR was in a library. And so I think that I love how this starts off with Mary learning how to do this in the library.
Yeah.
So I think also, I think that
I think that's time. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think
Oh.
we sort of ran out of time. But anyway, thank you so much, Sue, and thank you, Booklist.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so fun.
Thank you so much for that wonderful conversation, Carolyn and Sue, and to Carrie. And a big thank you to all of today's presenters. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones, like those you see here. Staff training, in-services, local conference, Booklist can help. You can now request free copies of Booklist and Booklist Reader for upcoming staff training programs so you can help the next generation of library workers become Reader's Advisory and collection development superstars. Scan the QR code on this screen, visit our website, or email info@booklistonline.com for more details. If you are heading to PLA in Columbus, please stop by the Booklist booth, number 1317. We'll have free copies of our magazines, including the Guide to Graphic Novels, book giveaways, tote bags, buttons, and a reader recommendation wheel. Plus, don't forget to attend our book buzz on Thursday, April 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern, featuring your favorite adult publishers buzzing about upcoming hits. See you there. And thank you all so much for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, Sourcebooks, Entangled Publishing, Crooked Lane, and Astra Books for Young Readers. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.